Let's take this to our panel and have a discussion about it. We have News Nation political contributors, and Denise Gitsham, who's a former Republican congressional candidate, and A. Scott Bolden, Democratic strategist, previously the chair of the D.C. Democratic Party. Scott, you first. Do you think there are more paths for Harris than there were for Biden?
I think with Harris, the path to victory is that there's substantial energy behind her, and all the parts of the DNC coalition that we were leaking, Black and brown voters, Arab Americans in regard to the Hamas-Israeli war, young people, we're going to bring them back. And so I think that thin blue wall, we've only got 105 days, but that thin blue wall is being rebuilt quite quickly. And with $100 million in the bank over the last 48 hours or so, there's a lot to be excited about in regard to Kamala Harris and what she's doing and how well groomed she is as a candidate, having been the vice president for the last 4 years.
Next step here is going to be picking a running maker, one of the next steps. And Denise, I think getting a Republican perspective on this, assuming you're going to give us an honest answer, which I know you will, would be interesting. So we have, on the list here, we've talked a lot over the last couple of days, really, about Shapiro, governor of Pennsylvania, Josh Shapiro. But today, I mentioned this earlier, prediction markets and elsewhere, Mark Kelly, Arizona, is getting a lot of buzz. So when I went through those states and those other paths, whether it was Arizona or Georgia maybe being back in, where Trump's had pretty good leads in the polls, which one do you think gives Harris the best chance to go against Trump if I just give you those two? Is it Kelly? Is it Shapiro?
I've always thought that Shapiro was the best choice. Of course, he's Jewish, so that's going to pose potentially an issue on the Israel-Hamas war in regards to what the Democratic base feels about that. But, Mark Kelly is certainly an American hero. And so there's plenty of reasons to choose, as my Democratic friends have said, a boring white man from a very exciting state. And I think that if she is able to pick the right person, with the caveat that usually vice president picks don't change the way that people end up voting. But, if she does pick a good running mate that comes from a state that brings her enough electoral votes, there's a possibility that she could become competitive. As the polls currently stand, that doesn't seem to be about, but we'll see.
So the only poll we've had out since this happened was a national poll, the Reuters poll that came out. I have it up here. That could show you the three-way version of it. Has Harris up 4. She's up 2 in a two-way matchup, but when Bobby Kennedy's in there, it's 42, 38, and 8. So Denise, you first this time, then we'll go back to Scott. So you don't think the race has changed substantially since Harris got in? I mean, to Scott's point, I think it's fair to say there's definitely more enthusiasm on the Democratic side. We don't know the numbers yet, other than that, but you don't think the race has changed much?
Well, there is, considering where they came from, which was an absolute disaster. They were in a pit, and now there's a bit of a honeymoon, right? And this is exciting for Democrats and for Americans who want to see an actual fight, because now there's someone who's alive and young and vibrant and looks different from the people we've been seeing on screen for a long time.
Right.
The problem is, what people forget is that up until June, Democrats were talking about replacing Kamala Harris as a vice presidential running mate because she was so abysmal in her polls. She was the only person less popular than President Biden. And so I hope she's enjoying her moment in the spotlight. It's not going to last long. She has tied herself to this administration. The more she speaks out about the issues and the policies that Joe Biden stumbled and failed on, the more it's going to sink her candidacy. And I don't know how she's going to be able to separate herself from those issues, given that President Biden seems to be putting her increasingly in the limelight.
Well, right now she's doing it because she's not Biden and she's not Trump. And there were all kinds of numbers we had before this that said, probably 7 out of 10 people in the country wanted someone other than those two old guys in the race. And now they have someone. So she's taking advantage of that. Scott, you were laughing, which is very rude, by the way, at Denise. When she
I'm used to it. It's okay. I love Scott.
So you were laughing, but Denise does make a point that once this thing settles down, and they're already doing it to some extent, but maybe it takes effect more, the Republicans are going to go after, especially, on immigration. So there's, it is a little bit of a honeymoon period here, no?
I would never be rude to my colleague or you on your show. I just couldn't help myself because I just saw a poll where she, in a three-way race, she was winning by 42%. And then Denise says
she was winning by 4, but she had 42%.
Yeah, right.
Okay. Listen. With age and mental acuity and Biden off the ballot now, all things are equal. That is, we'll have a debate about the economy with low unemployment rate and the stock market and inflation downward trending. We can have that conversation on the immigration border. Immigration has been cut in half plus since he implemented his executive orders. We can have that debate and that discussion. The problem that the GOP is going to have is the Democrats now are going to prosecute the case against a convicted felon by a prosecutor, and he's not going to be able to run from those convictions or is being found liable for sexual abuse, the abortion issue, how he treats and abuses women. We're going to make the GOP regret they ever nominated Donald Trump, despite their solid 40–45% of MAGA support.
Right.
This race isn't going to be as close as people think.
Yeah, it might be. It definitely might be back to pre-debate levels, or maybe even more than that in terms of the closeness of it. And the energy level is much, much higher, Denise, you have to say, as we talked about for Republicans. Sure. Scott did use the word debate. I want to ask you about that because President Trump was on a call earlier where he made it clear he will debate her. So he said something to the effect of he's not thrilled about it being on ABC. This is what he said, but he's going to be there and debate her, and he wants to debate her more than once. How do you see that debate or debates going?
Yeah, listen, I'm sure that they're going to be ugly. I'm sure that any notion of unity and bringing everyone together is going to fly right out the window, as it already has. But I do want to make one point, which is that the key to this race isn't the 40+% of people who are committed to voting to a D or an R, anyone with a D or R by their name. The key to this race is independent voters. And Kamala Harris polls at 30% amongst independent voters. She loses 2-1 to Trump in a head-to-head race on the people who are going to make a decision as to who the future president of our country is. So whether he debates her and it goes great for him, which I'm sure that it will, or it goes poorly, it doesn't really matter because Americans have seen what Kamala Harris brings to the table, and they decided she's not a good leader. And so we'll see how it all plays out. I'm pulling for a good fight, and I know that Scott's going to bring it to me every single time, whether or not it materializes.
I think we have one, guys. Denise,
that's when she was vice president.
Scott, thank you as well.
Real quick, that's when she was vice president.
When Kamala Harris was vice president. Well, you may be right. She still is vice president, but now she's at the top of the ticket. So you know what? We don't know.
Right. It makes a big difference.
We're having a conversation now when we don't have a lot of data. So maybe you're both right. Thanks, guys. We appreciate it. We're going to get into the Delta story in a